Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Anthropology. And even if you're dicey, today we'll try to get to know what anthropology as a subject is before we venture into the preparation. Because I've had queries from certain students who are trying to know the optional and they are not able to decide that whether they have to go ahead with the optional. Common FAQs are whether the optional is getting very competitive, how will we able to score 300 plus. There are a lot of sources now. So what sources do we refer to? So I'll try to create an understanding for anthropology as a discipline today. And towards the latter half of the discussion, I'll break down the syllabus for you, the UPSC CSE syllabus for anthropology. Because whenever you come with certain queries related to textbooks, you come and ask, Ember and Ember, we have started reading. How should we read it? Okay, should I read it cover to cover? So these are some basic things which we'll get to know. Before decoding the syllabus, it is a bit difficult to point out those topics for you. So we'll try to decode syllabus. We'll try to understand what anthropology is by cultivating certain examples from all around us. So there are certain things which keep on happening around us which are very deeply related to anthropology. So as a discipline, I'll try to introduce you today to this particular subject. For people online, you can just leave a comment, okay, in the section. So I'll address your query as well. Okay. Before moving to the syllabus, etc., the first thing, I'll take up certain examples from every walk of life, universally valid examples, and we'll try to relate how are they anthropologically relevant. Since most of you have come here, I garner that you have a basic understanding of anthropology. To break the term scientifically, it is the study of man. And study of man is multifaceted. So when I use the term study of man, I do not want to limit myself only to the evolution part. And that is the biggest myth about the discipline, that it is entire biology. It is one aspect of anthropology. Because if I have to study evolution of man, I have to know how Homo sapiens have come to be formed over the millions of years. So that is one part. Second, more interesting and relevant part, which we all can connect with on a daily basis, is cultural evolution around human beings. I can give one example with which we can find resonance in all of us. When you were in college, say three years ago, when you started college after 12th standard, you had certain paradigms in your mind, certain conceptions about certain things. Do you find them changed after the course, after the completion of the graduation? Yes. And they will even change more drastically now as you start reading things, as you start reading newspapers. So organically also, you as a human are evolving every day, no? I might not believe in the premise which I was very steadfast on 5 years ago, because I have learned that there are certain facets which my vision might have been missing on. This is one of the most simplest examples of what we mean by human evolution here in anthropology. One aspect, yes, it is biological, where we'll study the gradation of development of human beings as meat and flesh, as we stand today. For example, how did our brains evolve? Were there any kind of special developments with respect to the constitution of spinal cord? But we'll not study every finger bone or every bone in your body. No. The changes are at the outset, major changes which are very much perceptible. Just like I said, brain size, okay, bipedalism, walking on 2 legs, etc. Okay, so let me clear that first. In that context, do you know about these tribes? Okay, Inuits is still a kind of a specific term which I'm using. Do you know Eskimos? Eskimos? Since school time, we know about Eskimos. Who are Eskimos? Arctic areas, right? So we know that since our school days. Now, yes, please come. Inuits is a anthropologically or scientific name, so to speak, which is now internationally valid for Eskimos. I can say they are erstwhile Eskimos now. Now they are called Inuits. Okay, so it's one and the same thing. We know about them. What is special about these people? So as you were telling me, the kind of habitat they live in is very extreme. Extreme cold conditions. The temperatures go up to minus 90, etc. Like what would we like to store in a refrigerator in a biology lab? So that we need to pause the cell division. That kind of a range they are having. But they are surviving. And they have been surviving for centuries altogether. There are accounts of their ancestors. There are accounts of how these societies were able to live with the hunter-gathering paradigm also. Therefore, can I conclude, they might have something which is different to us genetically. Why am I saying this? Because if we go there, even if you go to Ladakh, it will take you 24 to 48 hours to acclimatize to that particular climate. Otherwise, shortness of breath follows, right? So you take a pill and you get acclimatized and then you resume your journey around the area. Now look at these people. They have been surviving harsh winters for so long. So there were studies which were carried out on this particular population, and it was found that they have a specific kind of a gene mutation. Why I am using the term mutation? Because they are 99% like us. We know this. 99% of humanity shares the same genetic sequences. But what is that difference? That they have a special genetic mechanism which is helping them to adapt to the extreme conditions. If you pay heed to the terms which I used, for the Ladakh example, I use the term acclimatize, whereas here I am using the term adapt. Acclimatization is done for a shorter period of time and it is reversible. If you come back to Delhi, again you will be like a normal person. No shortness of breath, nothing. But adaptability is what you gain by living in a specific terrain for a longer period of time. And as Charles Darwin said, survival of the fittest and natural selection. These are not some biological terms. These are science terms from school science. I'm not using technical terms yet. So therefore, to enable their life, there were certain genes which were selected by the nature to make sure that they survive. Clear? Coming to the second part, if you look at the diet of these particular people, they are devoid of plant vegetation whatsoever, because obviously the coniferous forest will also be covered in ice. Their primary source is marine mammals, most often whales and seals. And if you have seen a seal, we know that it has a very fat layer of blubber, fat. So studies were carried out on these people that despite eating so fat-rich diets, why are they not having cardiac issues? Because along with that fat diet, there's a huge scale consumption of omega-3 fatty acids. This is a research finding. And apart from that, a genetic adaptation which is helping them to metabolize omega-3 fatty acids from the diet they are eating. So their metabolism is in a way different than ours. I hope you can understand. That metabolism is helping them to root out the essential ingredients to fight that extreme weather. Right? So this is one example. Now if you look at these people, if I try to understand their geography, their terrain, their culture, therefore everything will be different than us depending upon the area I am talking about, right? They will live in igloos. They will have fur type of clothing to protect them from harsh cold. They'll have oil lamps inside the houses. They use snowmobiles, okay, because that is what can be used there. Therefore, can I say that their culture is different than what is the definition of culture for us, right? So how is that happening? Because of the differences in geography, terrain, climate. Can you now understand that human evolution can have multiple facets? Biologically, they are same to us 99% in terms of the genetic composition. But there is one different adaptation which they have than us. One example is clear? Now see, look at the second one. This is one of the greatest myths, and I hope you all have heard about this, that men are bad at colors and women are bad drivers, bad at maps, geospatial outcomes basically. I tried to dig out the anthropological relevance of this myth. And along with anthropological relevance, there's also certain science which supports this particular phenomena. If I start from the Stone Age, you will see that the primary phase where human beings started organizing themselves into a rudimentary form of societies, still not in the stage of families and such, women were most often garnered with the work of gathering. In hunter-gatherer societies, women predominantly were the gatherers. So gatherers, what will they do? Collect fruits, honey, wax. The definition which you can interrelate with the minor forest producers today. I hope under the FRA we have MFPs and you know what MFPs are. So to identify the fruit, whether it is raw or ripe, women used to get that particular notion from the color of the fruit. For example, a green colored fruit is more often than not raw, whereas a yellow, red kind of a fruit will be ripe. So therefore, that cognition was inculcated in the very human evolution which began at the very beginnings. On the other hand, men were out hunting. Therefore, by default, they have to come back to their camp. They did not have Google Maps. So they had to venture out in the wild, kill a game, kill a wild animal, fetch food, and return back to the camp. So historically, biologically, men were programmed to develop their geospatial abilities from the very beginning. That is one point. Second is, with respect to brain structures of men and women, men have more visual receptors in both the hemispheres of brain, which enable them to easily imagine a three-dimensional structure and the facets around it. Third is the level of hormones. Testosterone is also an aiding factor, whereas estrogen suppresses the spatial abilities. And the most important one is cultural factor. How you are brought up as a kid. When you're a girl, people are getting you kitchen set, people are getting you Barbie dolls, they are getting you, coy, good games that you do not have to create rupture. On the other hand, boys will get aeroplanes, cars, okay, where you are just zooming around with your cars. So that means what? From the very beginnings, you are being inculcated that 3D dimension of moving your car, whereas dolls are stationed at one point and the focus predominantly is only on beautification. That is a cultural paradigm. So in this example, you will see that how archaeology has a role. By archaeology, I mean evolution has a role. Second, how biology has a role by way of hormones, by way of your brain structures. And thirdly, how society has a role. That there's a scooty for girls, there's a scooter for boys. Society has created these gender stereotypes to a certain degree, right? So this is the anthropological dimension for these myths which we have always known. Another example. Now, this example is of 𝐒𝐴𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐵 Mela. Do you know about this Mela? 𝐒𝐴𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐵 Mela? Right now, it's going to commence in Assam from 23rd to 26th June. So this Mela is very ubiquitous, and I specifically picked this issue because for the last 2 years, we have seen a lot of Supreme Court judgments and litigator mayhem related to the idea of allowing women in the menstrual age inside the temples. Now, this Mela is an exact opposite affair, which celebrates the annual menstruation cycle of Devi Kamakhya. So, Kamakhya Devi Temple, Guwahati, Assam. So, this festival is celebrated over there with a great amount of fanfare following. However, the traditional notion they are still holding on to, the temple is closed for 3 days, saying that the goddess is currently in the unclean phase or unclean period. And after 3 days, the temple is opened, she is bathed, and therefore there is a 4-day festival around it. right? Now, this is also a unique cultural element where they are celebrating the menstrual cycle. And it has been equated with the fertility of soil. So it's considered that if you worship the goddess during that period, the productivity agriculture-wise is going to be huge. So therefore, it is an annual festival, like we have Diwali, right? So this is a facet of cultural anthropology, where you will see that how gender norms might not necessarily be unanimously applicable to all societies, right? This is one example. This is an example which is related to specifically the homosexual communities. This is a deity in Tamil Nadu. There's a proper temple. The name of the deity you can see here, Aravan deity. There's some background related to the Kurukshetra Mahabharat war, which is related to Aravan. So he ended up dying in the war, and he always had this dream of getting married before he dies. So just after his death, Lord Krishna takes the form of Mohini and ritually breaks his bangles at the funeral, signifying that he has taken the form of Aravan's wives, right? So now we have a temple in his name, Aravan Temple, and every year it is celebrated where transgender people are dressing as brides specifically. So a festival which is celebrating transgenders. And parallelly, what did we saw the entire last month in Supreme Court? Same-sex marriage debates, right? Legalizing homosexuality, all these things. Okay, so if you look at the historical connotation here, Mohini is a very accepted avatar of Krishna, so to speak. It's very famous also. But on the other hand, we have so much opposition which is springing from the Indian society towards homosexuality, right? What is this? Can you identify? Yes, what is it related with? Getting heat? It is a ceremony. It is a ceremony. Can you tell me the context of the ceremony? When is it done? Yes, Griha Pravesh. And this is very popular in southern India. So it is believed that when you enter your new home, the first thing which you have to do is let the milk boil and spill over inside. You know, inside the house, I mean, the drops have to inculcate on the slab area of your kitchen, which is a belief system which says that it brings goodwill to your home. So this is a kind of a ceremony which does not exist in northern India at all. We haven't heard of this, right? So this is also an example of cultural anthropology, where you will study how religious practices, belief systems differ from area to area, right? Who are these people? Who is he? A Gori Sadhu, a very kind of a special sect called Kapalika sect, where they are mostly engaged with post-mortem rituals, right? And they have a very different kind of an energy, if I could use the term, and are very different from the normative Hinduism which we know as a cult of worshipping in the mainstream. Though they belong to the Shaivist cult, but their methods are very different and very appalling for certain people. They are known for storing skulls, preserving skulls, and they consider it to be a remembrance for the impermanence of life. This is what they say. So, in a Hinduist tradition, which is very vehemently being supported in this particular reign of the government, we also have certain deviations from the traditional mainstream. You wouldn't find any person coming and telling to you that I want to be a Gori Sadhu or I want to go and worship a Gori Sadhu, right? So I study this under the topic religion, where we talk about supernatural practices. There are certain kind of sacrifices which are done. Have you heard of any news of human sacrifice in India recently, in the last 1 year or so? In Kerala. And there were 2 incidences which were related to witchcraft, right? So here we'll also study that how religion, witchcraft, and these kind of practices are stimulating in the environment. This is again a part of cultural anthropology. Can you get a perspective now? There are certain things which we might have been growing with around us. We might know about Agori Sadhus, but we wouldn't have looked at an anthropological perspective of their lives. Okay, so that is what these examples are trying to depict here. Now coming to the most wide example which we have in India, it's related to forms of marriage. So when we talk about forms of marriage, the most accepted form today is monogamy. But apart from that, there are many kind of hill tribes where polygamy is the norm. If I backtrack and try to ascertain that why do they follow polygamy, so to speak. So you will see that in those areas, hill areas, the land holding per family is already less because of it being a hill area predominantly. So if they are going to marry every daughter to a different person, the associated dowry with it is going to get over there in the way, and associated with that is another factor of land fragmentation down the progeny line or line of inheritance. So that is why polygamy is encouraged in hill tribes. So where one man is marrying 2 or 3 multiple women, right, simultaneously, to keep their household astray. And the second perspective which we can talk about here is to get more helping hands at the house in terms of engaging in certain agricultural activities and mixed fed farming like dairying. Okay, so they'll have more helping hands, more women who can help out in generating other kind of income. The third perspective is the number of wives a man has in the hilly terrains is also associated with the ritualistic social status which is associated with a man or his family in the area. So in one of the communities, later I'll tell you, Sembaga, it's considered that the more number of wives you have, the more up you are in hierarchy. So there are multiple reasons which are associated with these kind of practices which are surviving till today, right? Now, this is an example of a polyandry where one woman has multiple husbands. Okay, that is polyandry. Which societies practice polyandry? Not all, but yes, Khasis. What is levirate and sororate? Do you have an idea? These are also forms of marriages. Have you seen in northern India, this practice was very common, not today, that when a newlywed or otherwise, when there's a wedded couple and the husband dies, the wife is ritualistically married to her husband's younger brother. It used to happen earlier on. If you want, you can just hear stories from your parents also about the areas in the village where this was very common. It might not follow with the very elaborate ceremony, but it was generally the norm. Similarly, sororate is the practice when, if the wife dies, the husband gets married to her sister. Okay, so these were norms which were very much prevalent at the earlier points in time. Okay, not today. However, if you study types of marriage, this becomes an important part to cover, right? Now tell me, what is this marriage and do you know about this news? No? Nobody? Sologamy. Where did this happen? Vadodara, Gujarat. These two right now are exceptions to the definition of marriage. Because see, marriage is a very big social institution and it is considered to be one of the most universal social institution. Why? Because it exists in one form or the other in every society. Monogamy, polyandry, polygamy, any form. Sologamy, however, is an aberration. Why I am using this term aberration? Because firstly, it does not fulfill the basic criteria of marriage. And secondly, it does not have any legal status also. How can you validate? How will you get a marriage certificate? How will you, be able to access for adoption? You cannot recognize yourself as a partner, right? So there are simple kind of legal hurdles and societal hurdles in these kind of aberrational practices, so to speak. And the most recent one is the debate on same-sex marriages, which is on in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has decided to reserve its judgment. There are certain terms which the Chief Justice of India used. Have you been following that news? What did the CJI say about this? Okay. Yes. You cannot ascertain the identification of gender which a person decides to identify with, which is a very valid argument, because mostly people realize very late in life, and nowadays we also have sex change surgeries also. So therefore the identity is more of a fluid kind of a concept now. What about the judgment? I mean, related to the whole issue. Any other thing which you know? Okay, do you know about fundamental rights? Which fundamental rights kind of argue or support this argument? 21? Yes. Anything, any other article which you know of? 19, yes. 19A. Yes. Freedom of speech and expression. Or 14? Equality? Okay. Do we remember any Supreme Court judgments related to this case? What was the judgment in that case? Legalizing same-sex marriage, तो issue ही क्या होता? Same-sex marriages have not been legalized. That is the issue they are asking for, no? Decriminalized, yes. Homosexuality, which was considered to be a criminal act, that was stricken down. And that is the whole issue. There was another judgment in which the Supreme Court said that every person has the fundamental right to choose one's partner. One judgment. Second judgment, decriminalizing homosexuality. What is the corollary of both the judgments? That you can marry a partner of same sex and you can be in a relationship with a partner of same sex, and that will not be a criminal activity. So living with your partner is allowed. The idea is, why not legalize it and give them the identity of being a married couple? Why? Why marriage now? Why are they not able to do good with the status which they have gotten right now? Why are they fighting for marriage? Social acceptance, registration, what else? Tangible reasons बताओ. Social acceptance तो आपको वैसे नहीं भी मिलेगी, तो I don't think that marriage acts as a one point, good point. Any other point? Adoption rights is a very valid point. See, living with a partner of same sex is allowed. That is what I'm saying. Why marriage then? Why are they fighting for marriage? Literally, they are fighting for marriage. If you have followed the case, there was a petition which was signed from across India, even from school-going children, which reached the CJI. Adoption rights, insurance rights. Can you nominate your partner as a nominee in the insurance section? Specifically, it has become more of a valid point after COVID-related deaths happened. So when you're purchasing a couple-based insurance policy, and if you're not able to nominate your partner itself as a member, what is the use? Right? Thirdly, accessing certain services like opening a joint bank account, owning property, inheritance. These are certain things which are very legal at the outset, which are kind of legal avenues which you get out of marriage. Otherwise, you cannot do it legally, right? So after COVID, I'm telling specifically, this became more kind of news to talk about, because people were paying very hefty insurance bills despite having insurance covers. So that is why Menaka Guruswamy argued in the court that marriage is not just a matter of social dignity, as you said. It is much more than that. It provides a bouquet of rights. a bouquet of rights where you can access certain things in the social milieu only when you are as a legalized couple, only if you have a marriage certificate. Right? So that is the main argument why they are arguing in this particular case. Now come back to the Chief Justice of India. What perspective did he give? Because I'll give you one clue. Triple Talaq judgment was given by the Supreme Court where triple talaq was banned. Right? So what happened in that judgment was Supreme Court gave the judgment first and the parliamentary law followed later. The main argument in this case which the government of India is presenting is that the role of law making or legislation should stem from the parliament because parliament is the representative of the entire country. So why is Supreme Court taking this right of legislation in its hands? This is the argument which was given by Solicitor General of India. But however, I am giving you a counter argument. This happened in triple talaq. Then a legislation came and it was banned. Now tell me. Another major argument which was made by the government, you're not following this news? This is like the epitome of current affairs right now. Have you just started the preparation or have you been, you are starting for the first? Okay. So you started reading newspapers, I assume. This was everywhere in news for the past month, every day. And ideally, you should, what you should do is, don't get scared. In the initial stages, we do not know about everything. So that is why we'll not be able to build very good perspectives. But as you read, your perspectives will build very strongly. So if you today just go and look at the news section, you will see Indian Express had 3 articles, Outlook has 1, Hindu has 1. Just give a glance to all these articles. You will get the crux of the debate. Instead of mugging this up at the end of the year from some magazine. फिर क्या होगा? Information bombardment. अभी क्या होगा? Internalization. You will get logical outcomes out of the argument. I'll tell you. The Chief Justice of India said, there is a difference in implementation of law and internalization of law. There's a difference between implementation of law and internalization of law. We as a judge might even give a green signal to same-sex marriages. Therefore, it will be implemented. But is the social fabric of India ready to internalize this law in its letter and spirit? And they kept the judgment hanging after this. So that is why the judgment has gone into the reserved category. They have reserved their judgment. They have not delivered yet, which is a very valid point. Yeah? The case which I'm talking about is जो last month litigation चल रहा है same sex marriage debate पे, that case, the most recent, जिसका अभी judgment आया ही नहीं है, so we cannot mention the name of the case legally, we cannot write it. जैसे आपने बोला ना नवतेज सिंह जौहर, that is legal, that is a judgment has notified and there is a proper portal, there is proper authenticity of that judgment to be used in our answers. Okay, but this case is still ongoing. We are waiting for the judgment. It has been reserved. So in this case, the Supreme Court said this, that there is a difference between implementation of law and internalization. The reply was to the arguments which were presented by the litigators, that when Supreme Court has earlier gone ahead in the name of constitutional morality and judicial activism, you have decriminalized homosexuality. You have allowed people to have their own partners. If you remember, there was a girl from Kerala, Shadia Hassan. So in her case, she had married a Muslim a person and converted her gender also. And the family filed a case that she was kidnapped. But when the judgment happened, the girl said that she married out of her own choice. That was when Supreme Court reiterated this idea that you can marry out of your own choice. Yes. So in that case also Supreme Court has highlighted. So the litigators said that when you have done this, therefore homosexuality is not criminal offense now. Why not legalize it? So that was the reply which he gave. That probably the Indian society is not much, accepting to this notion right now. And the government of India also had the same stand. That, to use the exact terms, the Solicitor General says that this is an urban elitist view. Urban elitist view, that homosexuality needs to be recognized. Because in rural India, you will not find any incidences of homosexuality. So the litigators said, yes, because there's so much pressure that if you come out, you will be beaten to death. There might be some impediments in the socio-cultural framework which are stopping people from exercising their own rights. So this is a very deep kind of a multifaceted battle which was going on. If you have time, just have a look at the arguments. And why I'm stressing on this is because when you quote these kind of judgments in your answers, it will add weight to your answer. If I use, for example, this is something which is very nice to be written also. Difference between implementation and internalization. Menaka Guruswami using the term that marriage brings a bouquet of rights. Right? So these are things which, if we write in GS part also and anthropology also, it's equally valid to add weight to your answer. This is how we'll use current affairs. This is a case study for me. For anthropology, this is a case study under the marriage section. Sologamy is a case study. What is the static part? Forms of marriage, types of marriage. That is static. Yes, not applied, but yes, to a certain degree. Applied anthropology would mean where I am applying the anthropological concepts to certain valid issues like anthropology in public policy. आपने सुना है कि नहीं, ट्राइबल पंचशील करके एक पॉलिसी थी. So that policy was a brainchild of an anthropologist. Because there were two views. That one view was post-independence, how to deal with tribal India. This was the question, how to deal with the tribals. One view was we should assimilate them with the mainstream Hindu population, assimilationist view. The second view was isolationist view. Let them live. Why to tamper with their livelihoods and why forcefully, ask them to be a Hindu, to be a mainstream Hindu. So there was a median way of mode which was chosen by Jawaharlal Nehru with the assistance of Warrior Elwin, a very prominent anthropologist. He gave the policy of tribal Panchsheel, where you follow a balanced approach. For example, Jarawa, Sentinelese, till today they are in isolationism. They do not want to interact much with the mainland people. Even if you go there as a tourist, they might shoot you down with a bow and arrow. However, we have Mundas, Oraons, Dongariya Khonds dressing up like Hindus, wearing a sari, wearing a bindi. So that is also there. So that was a median policy. Now that is applied anthropology. Application of anthropology in public policy. Similarly, application of anthropology in studying epidemiology. Epidemiology is the incidences of epidemics. For example, COVID was an excellent example. Right? So that is applied part. This is also to a degree applied part, but in our UPSC CSE lingo, we call it case studies because in every kind of a question, you will highlight current related aspects. That trend has become much more popular now, where toppers copies, if you evaluate, you will see that they are writing contemporary relevance, way forward, recent examples in every subheading. So that way, case study, this is an excellent case study for anthropology. Right? So this is what is happening. Static content is same for everyone. References are same for everyone. How your answer is differentiating from the rest of the people is by the degree of personal touch you give to your answer. And that personal touch can be by any means. By my own kind of a structuring of the answer. By learning some introduction, conclusion lines which have been quoted by prominent scholars or justices. Giving examples which are relevant from the current year in which you are writing your exam. So if I'm writing this means this is an excellent case study for the topic marriage, right? Sologamy happened last year. We have application-based questions in anthropology as well. If you try to have a look at PYQs, you'll see questions like, where do you situate live-in relationships in the Indian societal model? That is not a static part. We don't have a topic on that. It's not written in the syllabus. What do we study is legality of marriage. That what is marriage, definition of marriage, types of marriage, forms of marriage, examples, that's it. So just as they asked the validity of live-in relationships socio-culturally, they can ask the validity of sologamy also. They can ask the validity of same-sex marriages. Because these are the answers on same lines, similar lines, no? Right? So that is why we need to have a balanced approach where my static part is well versed, where I know the concepts, but I also have to know the application. Another question, they asked was application of Purusharthas in 21st century. Relevance of Purusharthas in 21st century. You will study what is Purushartha, Kam, Arth, Moksha, everything you will study. And then they are asking you how relevant is it today. So each one of us will write a different answer. Because for us, the horizon is different. Na? So this is the answer writing which will make you differ from the rest of the people. There are no prototypes for these type of questions. However, there are standard prototypes for static questions. There is a great degree of repetition of PYQs which is happening in this subject, luckily, up till this time. It is happening. We don't know what the future holds. But yes, you have a very high degree of repetition rate. So there are certain low-hanging fruits like biological anthropology, archaeology anthropology, okay, and anthropological theories. 3 chapters which can yield us very good marks. They are highly static and they have been designated questions from those areas every year in one form or the other. The rest is application based and it is so for everyone, right? Were you able to understand these examples? If I'll first give you the gradation of anthropology as a discipline. Then we'll go back to these examples and try to place these examples in the relevant category. So these are the subfields of anthropology, so to speak. Because it's a very new kind of a discipline. It's a very new discipline. When you were getting admissions for your colleges, did you hear of this subject anywhere in your universities and all? We still have people who might have heard sociology, psychology, history, very mainstream subjects. Have you heard of this subject, someone doing MSc in this or BSc? No. It is a very relevant discipline and, it's a very new discipline and therefore the limited number of courses which are available in this country. So that's one of the reasons. And for a greater bit of time, it was in cognizance or in great sense of overlap with sociology. Because sociology studies society. So there is a great overlap, 40% overlap, where we will also study about what is culture, society, marriage, economic organization, political organization. So this is a great degree of sociology part which we are studying. But however, when this discipline came to be established, the focus was given on evolution of man, as I was telling in the introduction also. And evolution of man is multifaceted. Biological, archaeological evolution. Have you studied NCERTs, started studying NCERTs? So you know a portion called Ancient India, where you have to study different ages, Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic. What will happen when you study those ages? You'll study them in gradation. That in the Stone Age, everything was about stones. Instruments used, weapons used, killing an animal using a stone. So imagine how close you have to be to the animal to be able to kill it with a boulder. But as you go towards Iron Age, you will start having very equipped, like javelin-like instruments where you throw from the bushes and the animal is killed. This is evolution of tool technology. Yes? So archaeological anthropology deals with that portion. And the same thing you will study here, but in much detail. You will study Paleo, Meso, Neo, Iron Age, Chalcolithic cultures, Indus Valley civilization, everything of India as well as the world predominantly. And secondly, you will study the dating techniques in archaeology, carbon dating, dendrochronology, all these dating techniques. That is why I told you it is highly scoring. Because they will ask you about a culture, they'll ask the tool types, they'll ask the characteristic features, you'll draw a map and you're done. Right? The first part is biological anthropology or physical anthropology, which forms 30% of the syllabus. There are 2 parts to it. One is the static part, which is related to general concepts of biology. What is cell division? What is transcription, translation? What is genetics, Mendel's law, mutation? These are static topics. The second part is more kind of an applied sense of topic, which has more kind of overlap with science and technology, which you study for GS3. Topics like forensic DNA printing, DNA fingerprinting, right? You have genetically modified crops. Okay, so these are applied topics which you will study in the same section. Apart from these, there are certain general topics like epidemiology, studying epidemiological anthropology, the prevalence of epidemics, pandemics, diseases, etc., the Malthus theory, etc., which you also study in geography. and then a chapter on human growth and development, that how from an infant stage we grow to a full grown human adult and what changes are marked in those periods, right? This is the part of biological anthropology. Hardcore biology will be up to 15%. The rest is applied biology, right? And if you have a phobia of biology, to understand these concepts, you can simply go and watch videos on YouTube, which are meant for 12th standard, 11th standard students to gain a conceptual clarity of what DNA transcription, translation, or cell division means. It will give you a very brief overview. We do not need to master to the level of the post-graduation or PhD. No. A basic understanding is needed so that you can write a 10 marker or a 15 marker. That is the idea which we are chasing here. The third part, socio-cultural, one of the major part. Socio-cultural anthropology will start with anthropological theories. There are a lot of scholars, a lot of schools of thought. Since I was telling you that this discipline is about evolution of humankind, for all of us, evolution of humankind will have a different story. For example, I will focus on some civilizational aspect. You might focus on language, how language evolved. You might focus on sun god culture across the world, how diffusion of worship of sun god happened. So we all can take up different subjects and we can say that this is the center of human evolution. So therefore, we have about 8 to 9 schools of thought which have been mentioned categorically in the syllabus with the names of the scholars. That is what you have to study. That will form the base of the subject, because you will get to know a myriad kind of perspectives and views which you can use in your answers subsequently. Apart from that, you study social institutions like what is society, what is culture, what are social institutions. For example, while growing up, you tend to blindly copy what your parents are doing in front of you. Okay, if they are doing a puja, you will do this without asking questions. Because that is a basic thing, that is enculturation. The habit which we have to learn from our immediate surroundings. But as we grow up, we go to school, we go to college, our views tend to change with rationalization. We even start questioning certain paradigms which we were believing for a long period of time. So therefore, what are these social institutions, right? So you'll study society, culture, marriage, kinship, economic organizations, political organizations, and all that. That is the part of socio-cultural anthropology. The last is linguistics, which will focus on evolution of language in the human evolution paradigm. How did language come? When were the first words uttered? What were the hypotheses related to language? Because language is something which is culturally unique to humans, right? So linguistic anthropology deals with that. Not with the grammar or phonetics. That branch is called linguistics. Okay, linguistics is the science of language, where you'll talk about the sounds, you'll talk about phonetics, you'll talk about grammar. But here we'll talk about the evolution of language, their hypothesis, their relationship with thought process. For example, when you think, whether you're thinking in language, in Hindi or English or Telugu or Marathi, does language has an influence on my thought process or not? So these kind of topics will be dealt over here, right? Hardcore linguistics is a different science which studies language, which is science of languages, right? So this is the broad division. For paper 2, we have 2 sections, Indian society and tribal India. Indian society will deal with the erstwhile order of Indian society, like the Varna system, caste system, okay, a joint family system, the idea of Purushartha, Rin, Karma, rebirth, and anthropologists in India. Who are the prominent anthropologists in India and what work did they do? Whereas tribal India is a kind of a applicable based part, application based part. Static part is less. You can say that the biogenetic variation of tribal India, which you will study, which group is negritoid, which group is Australo-Asiatic, this is the static part. Apart from that, we study problems of tribal communities, okay, initiatives of the government. We talk about PISA Act, LARR Act, Schedule 5 areas, 6 areas. So that polity part which is related to tribal areas. Apart from that, you will study in detail the legislations specifically for tribal pockets, like the FRA, Forest Rights Act, LARR Act, okay, Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act. So these acts we have to study in their essence. What are the objectives? Did they achieve something or not? So again, you will write case studies where land alienation is still happening despite so much of protection. So that is, paper 2 is more kind of a GS kind of a paper where you will use your static concepts to build answers. Paper 1 has great static components. Biology part is there, archaeology is there, and theory portion is there. Apart from that, another scoring portion is fossils in this part. So as I was telling you that when we study human evolution biologically, I'll just show you the diagram. Look at this diagram. Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Neanderthal, and then Homo sapien. This is the broad gradation of hominoid evolution which we study in anthropology. And these are the only species which are mentioned in our syllabus. These are the only fossils which we have to study. 5 to 6 fossils we have to study. Before this, we'll study the order called primates. The monkeys, okay, how do we classify them, etc. But we do not have to go into much detail there, except the taxonomy. Taxonomy is a mugging up strategy, where we have to learn which class, which order, which kingdom do they belong to, and those things. For fossil part, it has been exclusively mentioned in the syllabus. We'll study them. It has been written. And every year, there is a short note on any one of them, right? And also make sure that when you study these species, we should respect the fact that in one place, this species might be called Homo erectus. In another place, it might be called something else. Java man, Peking man. In India, Ramapithecus, Sivapithecus. So we have to have that horizon, and it will come after 2-3 readings. So do not get scared of the names. They are nothing but transition from the monkey lineage to human lineage, just that. For example, Homo habilis means this species learns to use its hands effectively. It is also called as handyman. Because till now, we did not see a proper gradation of fingers and thumb. So if you look at our hands, you will see that fingers are in one direction and thumb is in opposable direction, because of which we are able to grasp and hold things. This was not seen in monkeys. कभी observe करना, सब same size के fingers होते हैं उनके. They do grab things, but the precision grip is what we have. So this is the first time when the Homo species started to hold things. Therefore, handyman, knowing to use hands in a better way. Similarly, as you go here, erectus. Why erectus? Look at the posture. This one is more erect. So therefore, spinal cord coordination. Till here, you will see hands are longer than legs. This hand is folded, but when you are transitioning from the monkey phase, have you seen chimpanzee walking, orangutan walking? Their hands are very long. But here you will see a balance between the body proportions have started coming in. So every phase you can easily go to the etymology. For example, Neanderthals. Neanderthals is not anthropology now. It is GS. Because Neanderthals is so much in news. So how did it get the name? Because its fossil was found for the first time in Neander Valley, Germany. Therefore, Neanderthal. And they are considered to be the most closest relative to us, to human beings. And there is a kind of controversy between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. The controversy says we killed them. Okay? And there are also evidences of mating between Neanderthal and Homo sapien also. As I told you, anthropology is a new discipline. Therefore, there are certain gaps still because we are dependent on the evolutionary findings. So in this case, there is a great gap. We are still not able to ascertain who is superior. But since we are the species who survived, and we are going by the idea of theory of natural selection and survival of the fittest, we consider ourselves up the ladder, the modern wise man. So these are 4-5 species which you will study, which have been mentioned in the syllabus. You will not study fossils apart from that. Yes, one, Denisova. It is in news since last year because Nobel Prize was given. And I will place Denisova between Neanderthal and Homo sapien. So already जो line blurred थी उसमें एक और controversy add हो गई है, Denisova. Okay, so this is what you will study about the biological part of evolution. And you, as I told you, you will not study how the structure of fingers changed, how many type of bones we acquired. No. Look at this highlight which I have pointed out. The first idea is to study the evolution of brain capacity. Second idea is to study the position of spinal cord. So you will see that the position of spinal cord is different in this organism than that organism, because of which we are able to stand straight. Similarly, your pelvis area, because we are evolving from quadrupedalism to bipedalism, four-legged to two legs. Therefore, the shape of pelvis will see a great change. Okay, so these are certain things which are visible at the outset. It's nothing like you're tearing apart the animal and then you have to study. That is not the kind of biology I'm talking about over here. I hope it's now more clear. The name of the fossils are there in your syllabus. You can go and see. This is what you have to study. But what about them? We have to study that in the entire world picture, where do we spot these fossils? And because of these evolutionary finds, we have certain theories. For example, out of Africa hypothesis. Africa is called as the cradle of human civilization. Suna hoga, bachpan se bahut suna hoga. Now you will validate why. Why is it called so? Because out of 5, 4 species evidences are from Africa. And that too in the Eastern Africa region along the Rift Valley. And from there it is believed that the modern man, or for that matter Erectus ke time se, the outward evolution started. And we spot these men going to Europe, Asia, Southeast Asia, and sabse last mein America. New World. That is why it's called New World. And we are Old World. So that is what you will study. Focusing less on the biological underpinnings, but focusing more on the spread of evolution. That where actually were we born for the first time and how did we spread? इसी में, just as I was telling you, the focus is on East Africa along the Rift Valley. You must have heard of Olduvai Gorge. It is a very celebrated gorge because उसी area में बहुत evidences मिले हैं, evolutionary finds. So these are just keywords. When you start studying, it will lead, one thing will lead to another and you will be able to write answers. Right? The biological anthropology part is right. See, this is in terms of brain capacity also we are seeing. Now let me give you an example of applied biology which I was telling you. Now Shraddha Walker case was in news for a very long time, and after that we have seen a lot of cases are coming out now where a body is chopped and frozen. A lot of cases if you see there. What is the function of forensics here? What techniques will we use over here? PCR technology. So RT-PCR की वजह से अब PCR सबको पता है. Earlier it was only a biotechnological tool. Similarly, DNA analysis, DNA fingerprinting, that is used as a evidence sourcing mechanism. So this is applied biology, you can say. This is what you will study. So if there is an example of forensic DNA analysis or forensic anthropology, we'll write case studies like this. यही तो example में लिखोगे जो आपके आसपास हो रहा है. How is this case being solved? And what CID has been doing for years, no? Fingerprints. So DNA fingerprinting, you can take clues from here. So I have to know the static part of DNA fingerprinting. What enzymes are used to break the substrate? How I observe the results. Application part comes here. How do I use it to testify criminals, to solve paternity dispute cases? These are my case studies. This is the approach to your answer. First you will write the concept and then you will write the case studies. Is it clear now? Now see this particular diagram. This is highlighting the kind of diversity or variation we have in human beings across the world. So if I look at human beings from China, from India, from South Asia, we all look different to a certain degree, different features. Why is that happening? 99% of genome is same. I told this the first thing when we were discussing Inuits also. But how is that 1% being so different that it's responsible for bringing so many changes? So you can understand that what can one gene do to you. For people who get insulin resistance, what is happening? The correct copy of insulin gene is missing from their body. For people who have type 1 diabetes since birth, जिनको injections लेना पड़ता है ना after every meal. So that gene is missing from your body. हो गया गलती body से replication में. तो क्या हुआ? That sequence got evaporated. It is not there. There's something else instead of it. What is this? Mutation. The form has been changed. The ideal form is a base sequence, but that does not exist now. Right? So that is why I hope you can understand what do we mean by this. 99% of genome is same, but that 1% can cause a major kind of shifts. Right? So that diagram over here is showing that mutation only. The correct copy had to be the purple clog, but it is replaced with the yellow cog. That is called mutant copy. And because cell division is a basic thing which happens in our body every day, so the mutant copy will get divided and replicated and you will be full with the mutant. That is the issue with treating cancer patients. Hai na? If you study radiotherapy or chemotherapy, we are using chemicals targetedly to kill infected cells. But even if one infected cell remains in your body after the treatment, cell division to ho gayi, so it will divide, it will create more copies, it will again make more cells cancerous. That is why relapse of cancer is so common. Right? So that 1% can create a lot of variation. So when we talk about these aspects, what is a gene? What are chromosomes? Okay, what is the difference between males and females in terms of chromosomal structures? What are chromosomal aberrations? Have you heard of sickle cell anemia? What is this disease? Blood disease. Chromosomal है या heredity वाली है या वैसे वाली है? Heredity hai, okay. In which areas is this disease common? India? Or? India still has lesser proportion. Africa is endemic to sickle cell anemia. And the reason is mosquitoes. Africa is a tropical place. Every day 4 o'clock rain. Water accumulates. So breeding ground for mosquitoes. And therefore infect the blood cells. So what actually mosquito is carrying? The plasmodium, the infectant. And half life cycle of mosquito is completed outside the body and half inside our body, inside the host cell. And we are the host cell. So what happens in sickle cell anemia is that your body changes the shape of hemoglobin, RBCs into sickle shape. Sickle is a tool which is used to cut wheat or any kind of a grass. It's like this sickle shape. Usually your RBCs are round. What happens with sickle shape is their lifespan becomes less. So your RBCs will die sooner. So therefore the plasmodium will not get time to multiply inside your body. So in Africa, this is considered to be natural selection, that nature has selected sickle trait to be the normal trait for African populations to save them from malaria. Because otherwise, if your RBC is living for 120 days, the plasmodium will get ample time to multiply in your body and the infection will spread. Okay, it is a natural selection example only for Africa, not for India. We are a subtropical country and for us it is a disease. Okay, because sickle cell RBCs, imagine karo, आपकी heart में, artery में blood आ रहा है. One incidence is जब आपका blood circular shape में. So the flow is very easy. If the blood is sickle shape, the chances of coagulation will increase because वो sharp edges होती है and they can clog your arteries. So otherwise it is a fatal disease. It is working out for the African population, specifically Central Africa, because of the, as I told you, जैसा inuits में हुआ था, वैसा उन्होंने एक adaptation, they have come to that stage. But we are still in the coping stage. So you will study that here. No, now people are not dying because it is a natural adaptation. Otherwise they will die of malaria. So I can say that the incidences of death because of malaria have reduced significantly. Right? So sickle cell trait is an adaptation for them. Yes. Because that is why I asked you, because in the recent budget, we had a initiative, eliminate sickle cell anemia from India by 2047. And why it is in news? Because sickle cell as a disease in India is more prevalent in the tribal pockets. Because obviously, unclean accessibility, water clogging rahega, they would not have proper sewage system and proper roads. They would not have MCD, which is regularly coming to your houses to spray. In Delhi, it is done. And during the season, the MCD people will come and ask you, cooler hai kya, gamla hai kya, jisme pani hai, and they'll come and spray that insecticide. But there it is not happening. So the preventive steps are not there. Plus, they are living in that monsoon high period where there's a lot of infestation of mosquitoes. So 2047 is the deadline which Indian government has given itself. That is why it was in news. So therefore, now you can interlink, no? The probability of this question being asked increases. So I should know the static part of sickle cell also and the application also. Prelims mein bhi aa sakta hai, for that matter. This is a disease you study in science and tech also, right? So this is how you will do reverse engineering. You're studying everything, obviously, but depending upon the PYQ analysis and depending upon what is going on in the current affairs, I can filter what topics are more important than the other ones. Okay, that is how you do smart work. Okay, so that is about genetics. Okay, now come back to your examples. In which topic will you place this example? In marriage. Simple. Marriage is a part of socio-cultural anthropology. Where will you put this example? In religion, under the topic rituals and practices, right? This is ceremony. You can also have this under the topic of marriage. You can also have this as a ritual system, because there's a type of residence systems after your marriage. In different societies, there are different norms. For example, in northern part of India, we have patrilocal residences that the couple shifts to the husband's family. In northeast, we have matrilocal residences. Yes. And in southern India, we have neolocal. Even if your parents are living in the same town, you will get a new house and set that house up. So that is neolocal. So when that kind of residences are set up, these ceremonies become a normal thing. Okay, so you can interlink this example anywhere. This is with respect to transgenders again, both. See, when you study this same-sex marriage debate, as I was telling you, also try to garner a historical perspective of homosexuality in India. Do you think in ancient India this practice was acceptable to the societal standards? Yes? बट एक्सेप्टेबल था या नहीं, क्या लगता है सोसाइटी के लेवल पे? टेम्पल्स आर्किटेक्चर शोज इंस्टेंसेस ऑफ होमोसेक्सुअलिटी, and when you will study purusharthas, you will get to know that kama was considered to be a cardinal aspect to keep the world going. It was considered a very important purushartha. Purushartha kya hota hai? That stages in your life where you have to do certain things. It is a kind of debt which you are paying back to your family, to your society, to your nation. So there are evidences that in ancient India, it was not as stigmatized as it is today. Okay, there are temple architectures which openly cultivate the idea of homosexuality. There are works on that also. Okay, try to read the background also. Right? In ancient India, when you will move from the early Vedic to later Vedic age, you will see sudden transition. In the early Vedic era, you will see women chanting mantras, women having swayamvars, women reading Vedas. But after the later Vedic period, you will suddenly see that they are increasingly constrained inside the houses and their liberties are curtailed. So the societies have changed to a certain degree from one point to another. So therefore, you can highlight these perspectives. So if I say that in today's India, homosexuality is a very stigmatized idea, that does not mean that it was stigmatized in ancient India. Thoda research karoge, thoda padhoge, you will get insights on that. Right? So you can begin your answer on this topic with these introductions, that how karma is one of the purusharthas in Indian philosophy and therefore a cardinal aspect to keep the world going. Right? You can start your answer with these things. That is the idea which I'm telling you, right? Okay. Gender stereotypes, again, cultural part. This is also an example of culture part, right? Any doubts here? Yes, yes. As I told you, the repetition rate currently in terms of optionals, anthropology is doing very fine, but the window which you have to consider is at least 10 to 15 years. There are questions which once came in 2010 and then came in 2020. So repetition happens, yes, and you will see a lot of material is there. But another thing which I'll tell you honestly is that people are writing same things. So that is why the optional is getting competitive. So therefore, whatever material is available in the market, we have to know that. That is a prerequisite. And we have to build above that if we are aiming to score in a more better fashion. Okay, that is the idea which I'm giving you. Have you started reading any basic books? Anything for anthropology? Or are you still in the deciding phase? Still in the deciding phase? Okay, how many of you have had a look at the syllabus? No one? Dekh liya? By? Ember and Ember you have started. Which topic? Acha, acha. Okay, okay. Okay. Let's solve the query of sources, one of the most often asked question. You will, if you are a beginner and if you are still wanting to explore anthropology as an optional, whether it's right optional for you or whether I'll be able to get an understanding of that or not. So Kerala SCRT. It's available on the net. Okay, do not purchase it. This is, I'm giving you an idea that you can just skim through this SCRT to get an idea of the key terminologies in anthropology. See, every discipline has a vocabulary. You agree with this, no? When we were in college, according to the discipline, if we are an engineer, if we are a graduate in English honors, we had a vocabulary. Similarly, this subject will have a vocabulary. We cannot write GS type answers because this is optional. Therefore, we'll use technical keywords. For example, when I was discussing same-sex marriage with you, I used a term that the government said that this view is urban elitist. So urban elitist kya hai? Keyword hai. I'll write this in my answer, I'll underline it so that the examiner knows that I've been following the judgment very closely. Similarly, in this subject, you will come across different keywords when you read once. When you read twice, you will feel there is a lot of information bombardment. There are a lot of scholars. There are a lot of things to learn, mug up. When you cross that stage, then you will be able to do value addition. So I would suggest that do not run after value addition in your first reading. You will be greatly overwhelmed because when you start venturing into a new discipline, there is a lot of content overload. Obviously, naya subject hai to bahut nayi cheezein aayengi. Okay, so we have to go step by step. To get acquainted with the discipline, to get to know what anthropology is lucidly. Why this book? Because it's a school book. So you will get a good picture like NCERT. After that, there are two books in the market. Anthropology Demystified and Anthropology Simplified. How many of you have them? You have it? Yes, this is Akshat Jain sir, this is Vivek Bhasmi sir, very great books and very sort of bird's eye view of anthropology. If I'm not able to understand how should I write an answer, I go to that book. If I want to know about the content, I go to that book. Okay, but truth be told, everybody is reading them. And don't read both, one. Okay, because both of them are addressing PYQs in their own fashion. Okay, this one is more new, more relevant because this is a more recent selection. As the examination also changes every year, no? The demand of the exam changes. If I talk about in 90s, the static part was very heavy. But now, with the changing aspect and dynamics of current affairs, our discipline is also seeing certain changes. So we have to be on board with the current themes and trends, right? So one book. But as I told you, everybody is doing this. We have to do more. What more? Standard sources. Nowadays, I'll tell you what is happening in the market. Everybody is thinking that we'll study optional for 3 months, we'll get 300. And then what happens is, in those 3 months, you are not able to read a discipline. You are gathering information. And you are not going to standard books. You're going to topper notes. And you're thinking shortcut hai, that you can learn that information and you can gain marks. Fine. But that will look like a mechanical approach, learning information. But if I go to these standard books, and no book is to be read cover to cover, only selective references, it will help me gain a perspective. So when I write an answer, it will be my personalized answer. It will not be blatant vomiting of facts. And in that way, you will connect organically to the subject and you will not feel कि सब कुछ रटना है. अगर आप, if you're referring only to topper notes, only to these books, it's like you have to learn everything, mug everything up. The clarity, the organic linkage will not be visible in your answers. बहुत mechanical answers आएंगे. I'm telling you truthfully because you're writing next year. If somebody was writing this year, because the time is limited, they only had to do value addition from topper notes. Because at this time, that would be a good strategy. But for you, that addition from topper notes should come in the end, when you have read your syllabus at least twice, right? So standard sources, and after that, value addition. Now coming to standard sources. One of the most common sources which I refer to everyone, these are two very underrated platforms. Do you know about them? Very underrated, very good content. The only disadvantage is duplicity. That if I write the chapter marriage, there will be so many modules on marriage. But what I have to do is, I have to skim very carefully. When you read marriage chapter once, you will be able to understand which content is relevant, which is not relevant for anthropology paper. So do not make mechanical notes from every line you see here. The importance of reading a reference book is, it will help you gain perspectives. It will paint a picture in your mind, just like it happened during your school days. Otherwise, it will be blatant memorization, right? And this is common for every part. Whatever part which you want to understand in a simple, lucid way, in a very organic way, you can go to them. After that, for physical anthropology, selective reference, no cover to cover. Look at the index, go to the chapter, make your notes from there, come back. And start consolidating your notes from the very beginning. Your notes should not be scattered. They should be in one place. There are two things. Either I can take printouts and add blank pages in between for the value addition and for the reference part. Or when I start making my notes, I can leave a margin, 1/3 page margin on the right hand side, to add value or whatever I learn about that topic in a new way. Because learning will come. एक बारी में सब कुछ cover होगा तो है नहीं. Learning will come till test series, till the end. You will keep on finding new things. But the idea is to put all that information in one place, so that when you read it, it is all there, along with examples and case studies. Okay? This is also very important. When you read newspapers every day, if there is a news which is relevant to your anthropology subject, you go and write it in your anthropology relevant chapter. Do not write mixed information line by line in one page. You will not be able to use it. Put it in relevant compartments. ये socio-cultural का है. Socio-cultural में भी marriage का example है. This example is good for archaeology. You have to know that segregation. Okay? So I was telling sources. For physical anthropology, this. For archaeological anthropology, one source is EPG. So there are PDFs from D.K. Bhattacharya sir. He is a retired historian. D.K. Bhattacharya. His PDFs are there. Apart from this, there's a book by him also, A Cultural History of India, something like this, by Professor D.K. Bhattacharya. Okay, this is coming from an archaeologist himself. So it will make the subject very interesting for you. It will not feel like you're learning the name of the sites and the type of tools, only that. It will make things easy, right? Okay, after that, socio-cultural anthropology. First, primary sources, your 𝐂𝐻𝐽𝐻. Then you have additions from Ember and Ember and current affairs. Ember and Ember is not to be read cover to cover, because see, a chapter on race you can read from there. You will learn to identify topics which are more holistically covered in that book. You can take it. Second, it is very good for case studies. You will find that book has many boxes, so you can take down that boxes relevant to the topic. As I told you in your answers, you have to use a good mix of current case studies as well as classic case studies. एक होता है classic case study. For example, a very prominent scholar, Malinowski, studied a certain society. That is classic. But same-sex marriages, sologamy, this is new. We have to have a balance between both, right? For that. Now, for Indian society and tribal India, there is a book by Nadeem Hasnain. A very simple book. For both the sections, there are two different books. Very simple, very easy to read. And since I told you, once we are clear with the concepts in both these parts, we have to be more open to write application-based questions, because this paper is becoming like GS. Okay? You will add relevant case studies here also. Can you recall any tribe which was recently in news in India? Any tribe? 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐤𝐻 crisis? What is that crisis about? Only reservation of is this a historical issue or something which happened because of a recent issue? Reservation was a kind of a conflict bringer now. Reservation was an immediate trigger. So again, go back home today. Similarly, go to the internet, go to the news section, study all the articles related to 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐤𝐻 crisis, write a note, short note, which will be relevant as a 20 marker for you. Everything about the 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐤𝐻 crisis. Who are the Kukis? Who are the Meiteis? Where are they distributed in Manipur? What is the geography of Manipur? What is the issue? What is the history of the issue? Because this issue is not contemporary, it is historical. It dates back to the British period. So when Britishers were imposing subsidiary alliance and they were making Indian states as their protectorate, it dates back to that time. That was the time when the Kuki zombie group was wantedly brought inside Manipur to act as a buffer between the existing tribal populations. So there's a historical issue. Okay? So 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐤𝐻 crisis is direct from your syllabus. If you look at tribal India syllabus, there is a chapter called Ethnic Conflict in India, where we talk about Greater Nagalim, we talk about autonomy demands, right? How there was a proposition, no, divide UP into 4 states, United States of Southern India. These are propositions of separatism because of ethnic boundaries. Now, the southern Indian states believe that they are doing very good on socio-economic parameters, and states like UP and Bihar cumulatively are pulling down India on the world list. So, the ethnic conflicts we have to study from every angle. For example, left-wing extremism and how it is creating ethnic conflict. What is Salva Judum? So, it is the most recent example for you. Excellent case study to write in your exam. The 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐤𝐻 crisis. I'll give you one more example how UPSC is asking questions. Last year, the Khasi Autonomous District Council, you'll study in polity, Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 areas. So under those Schedule 6 areas, there's a provision for creation of a ADC. And those ADCs have certain power over making personal laws. Because that is a scheduled area, government interference doesn't happen directly. The governor has to approve, only then the legislation becomes valid in that area. So they proposed a law that will change matrilineality in that state into patrilineality. And that bill did not get passed. But we were in the middle of mains and we were studying, following this issue. They did not ask the legislation directly. They asked what is the difference between matrilineal and matrifocal societies. What is the issue with matrilineal societies? So from a news, they went into conceptual depth. So PYQs will give you an idea, will give you a mirror that how you have to approach the paper, you have to approach the subject, in what way. Okay, so one of the most important game changers in this subject will be, and ideally what you have to do is, if you are an ideal candidate, you have to write your own sample PYQs over the course of your preparation, and you end up making a booklet of those PYQs, and you just rely on that. You read that before your mains. Obviously, Vivek Bhasmi sir's book and 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 sir's book is written in the form of PYQs. That information is the bare minimum because people are writing way above that. And I told you, what are they lacking? They are lacking a personalized answer, recent case studies. So these are value additions which you will do once you have read the reference books twice. Now, to ascertain value addition, come here. Now you will refer to topper notes. Whatever topper you feel is comfortable. Like, Narayan Amit is a very famous topper for physical anthropology, archaeological anthropology, and Mandar Patki sir for socio-cultural anthropology and paper 2. In fact, Narayan Amit also referred to Patki sir's notes. This you will do value addition. ये नहीं करना कि इसका PDF डाउनलोड करके इसी में से पढ़ेंगे, because that is a result of their churning process, their hard work. They have read reference standard books and made their notes. So it is easy for them to remember these things. If you look at these notes today, you'll get scared because there is a lot of information bombardment. Even when you come to value addition, do selective value addition. उन्होंने 10 केस स्टडी लिखा होगा, उसमें से आप 2 या 3 लो, because it's not humanly possible to remember so much of information for every topic. So read limited, make your own notes, grow an organic connect with the subject. Whenever there is any topic which you are not able to understand, whether it is from biology part or fossil part, go to YouTube. EPG Pathshala generally delivers lectures from very prominent scholars and retired teachers. So if there is good content there, like for archaeology, there is excellent content, it's fine. If the excellent content is not there, go to reference book. But try to get a hang of the topic. Do not leave any topic. And all the toppers we have interacted with, they only said one thing. We prepared a 1-page note for every topic. So even if it is a 10 or a 20 marker, the idea is to not leave any question. And if you do it on the basis of your own research, you'll remember it for a longer time. And if you mug up from some another source, it is only information. This is what I have learned in this process, right? Now, for value addition, apart from topper notes, newspaper I have already highlighted. Keep I would not say purchase them and study them. You are anyways going to skim Yojana, Kurukshetra articles. So if there is a certain issue in Yojana which is related to a tribal pocket, for example, in July 2022, we had the whole Yojana of that month for tribes. So that is an excellent source. So keep an eye on these kind of magazines. If there's any article related to our syllabus, we have to use it. Second, you know about Down to Earth? Down to Earth magazine पता है आपको? Online देखोगे, Down to Earth magazine covers mostly issues related to Indian perspectives, be it climate change, be it sustainable livelihood options for tribals, be it tribal education, health, restoration of tribal pockets, all these things. So a habit of just skimming that website once in 15 days. If there's any related article, we can use that. Okay? Some data, I would say, if you know, which can support your answers. Through the preparation, you will get accustomed to learn SDGs. कि SDG 4 ये है, SDG 2 ये है. You will use them in your GS answers. Similarly, if you can learn certain indicators, what is the literacy rate of tribal areas? IMR, MMR, NCRB का data with respect to crime against women, These are certain parent datas. 10 data याद कर लो that you can use in GS, essay as well as anthro. सिर्फ 10 data. ज़्यादा करोगे again error हो जाएगी. Okay, limited data updated to the year when you write the mains. Obviously the census 2021 was long due. वो derail हो गया है. अभी process चालू हुआ है तो it's going to take a lot of time. Meanwhile we can rely on MOTA, MOT report. मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ ट्राइबल अफेयर्स एट द एंड ऑफ द ईयर एक रिपोर्ट रिलीज करते हैं. जस्ट उनको देख लिया, ग्लैंस कर लिया, उनके बॉक्सेस देख लिए. बजट में जैसे आपने आइडेंटिफाई किया सिकल सेल अनीमिया स्पेसिफिक एक प्रोग्राम है, ऐसा कोई प्रोग्राम. अनदर प्रोग्राम एकलव्य मॉडल रेजिडेंशियल स्कूल न्यूज़ में था, ट्राइबल्स के लिए रेजिडेंशियल स्कूल्स का था. So things keep on happening around us. We have to identify them and we have to add them to your notes which are in one place, not scattered. Highlight कर करके books को फेंक देंगे, फिर वापस मेंस के टाइम देखेंगे. ऐसा नहीं करना है क्योंकि आप लोग just start कर रहे हो. Start consolidation right now. If you think there is a knowledge gap, you can leave space for value addition. You can write it in one place. Okay? This is the process you have to follow, but do not skip the standard reference books. Yes? 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐽𝐻? हाँ हाँ, उसी का ऑनलाइन का नाम है ये. हाँ, IGNOU मटेरियल ही है ये. IGNOU मटेरियल फॉर MA in Anthropology. The name of the course is MAAN. जनरली आप वैसे भी लिखोगे ना मैरिज 𝐂𝐽𝐻 तो आ जाएगा, 4-5 लिंक आ जाएंगे. उसमें यही है दैट देयर इज रेपिटेशन ऑफ कंटेंट. सो इफ यू स्किम थ्रू द कंटेंट आप फिल्टर कर सकते हो कि क्या रेलेवेंट है. बट यू विल फाइंड एग्जाम्पल्स हियर जो अदरवाइज मेन स्ट्रीम में नहीं मिलते हैं, राइट. एंड व्हेन वी हैव एंथ्रोपोलॉजी फाउंडेशन कोर्सेज तो आपको जो मटेरियल मिलता है वो यही सब होता है. What we do is we are just studying a topic from 5 places and putting it in one place selectively for you. But again, that work is done by me. So I have read it, I have churned it, I have read the examples. So मेरे लिए वो better retention है, आपके लिए फिर वैसा हो जाएगा information gathering. So that is why I am telling you, it's an honest opinion. That if you go through the process, you churn and your brain is kind of connecting with the subject. People just say कि 3 months में हो जाएगा, 300 ले आएंगे, ये पढ़ लो, Anthropology demystified. It's not the game now. This optional is competitive also. This year people wrote, 1100 people wrote with Anthro. So therefore examiner is searching for good, better answers. ऐसा ना हो कि सब same example लिख रहे हैं, सब same ही चीज़ लिख रहे हैं. अच्छा, one more thing, you have to be good with drawing maps. Especially in questions related to tribal India and archaeological anthropology. If there is a question on Mesolithic cultures in India, I have to write the features, the tools, everything, and then draw a map of pointing out the sites of Mesolithic cultures in India. That will fetch you more marks. उसके अलावा जो stone tools हैं उनके diagram, boulders, stone axes, तो वो आप कोई भी topper का कॉपी उठा के देखोगे आपको दिखेगा that everybody tried to draw everything, but not like there's an answer on bipedalism and you're drawing a whole monkey. No, you have to find that balance. We have to complete the paper also, right? So a fine-tuned balance. There will be questions where you will have so much material to tell the examiner and the space is less, so you just put a flow chart, उसमें point form में लिख दो, so the examiner knows that okay इसको पता है. Examiner tries to search certain keywords in your answer. If you present them to him by underlining the relevant keywords, the process becomes much easier. And the game here is to fight even for 1 mark. Because I am telling you, the content is this only. Everybody is reading this. But the material has saturated. Especially these 2 books. Build a lot on them. Build a lot. Structuring अच्छी है इनमें. They'll give you an approach, flowchart and diagram also. But we have to write more than that. That is what I am telling you. Redundant हो जाएगा. दोनों same है. Same in the sense that both of them have addressed the syllabus in the form of PYQs और उनके model answer दिए हैं. Topic wise उन्होंने नहीं दिया है. उन्होंने क्या किया है ना, PYQs के answers लिखे हैं. So दोनों करोगे तो आपका task वैसे बढ़ेगा. similar. You can refer, compare कर लेना, क्योंकि for someone who is beginning with विवेक भासमी सर की book बहुत approachable और बहुत easy लगती है to have a grasp of the subject because it is in very simple language. Akshay Jain sir has included more diagram, more flow charts, more scientific kind of inundations. So if you are looking for ground zero understanding and how to start answer writing, so Vivek Bhasmi is equally good. नहीं तो आप PDF में दोनों रख सकते हो. When you are studying a certain topic, उसी topic को जाके glance कर लिया, दोनों में से नया information मिला, अपने notes में लिख लो. Mental satisfaction भी होगी कि छूटा नहीं है और आपको पता भी चल जाएगा, right? ये सोर्स कर लोगे तो 300 प्लस में आ जाओगे अगर अच्छे से कर लिए तो. इसके अलावा कुछ जरूरत नहीं है. हाँ जी, हैंड आउट मिलता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल क्लास में जो टॉपिक पढ़ाया जाता है, आफ्टर द क्लास यू गेट अ प्रिंटेड मटेरियल ऑफ दैट टॉपिक एंड 1 क्वेश्चन. अब वो आपके ऊपर है. अगर आप वो लिख के आए तो मैं इवेलुएट करूँगी, मैं आपको मॉडल आंसर भी दे दूँगी. बट अगर आप लिख के ही नहीं आए, फिर मैं आपको सामने से आके नहीं बोलूँगी कि model answer ले लो. No, you have to write it. And later when we cover 30% of the class, we'll also do this exercise that towards the end of the class, I'll dedicate 7 minutes to write a short answer. कि 7 minutes हो गए, आप अपना लिखो, मैं अपना लिखूंगी. And then we'll discuss कि इस question को कैसे approach करना था. Because individually we all have different ways of writing answers. And when we discuss it in this setting, again उससे क्या होता है कि आपको याद रहता है आपकी गलतियाँ. And you get to know new points. So you get a handout, you get a practice question, you get sample answers for that, you get active answer writing in the class 3 times after a certain degree of portion is completed, कि आपके पास fodder हो answer लिखने के लिए. And apart from that you have a included foundation के साथ जो included होता है, test series included होती है, right, which is towards the completion of the syllabus. So in the comment section I have questions regarding books and study materials. I hope these questions are solved. I have detailed all the sources here. And for all of you, it's not necessary that you get a print, book version of all these things. Everything is available online. Telegram पे जाओ, सब कुछ है. Topper notes, topper test copies, all these books, their PDF, everything is there. Ember and Ember, everything is there. These are the sources everybody is reading. Okay, we have had a lot of topper talks recently. All India rank 3 was also from our test series. So Uma Harati, so she was the one who told us this thing, that from the very beginning of the preparation, she used to be very cautious about writing news relevant to anthro every day into her notes. Every day तो न्यूज़ नहीं आएगी ना एंथ्रो रिलेटेड, 5 दिन में एक बार आ सकती है. So at least that much we can do, that when you spot that you can just write it in your notes. Otherwise फिर आप मैगजीन से फिल्टर करोगे जनवरी के बाद, उसमें से पिक करके लिखोगे, वो बस वो है कि ओवरलोड फिर बाद में आपके ऊपर आएगा, फिर वो याद भी नहीं होगी. अगर हम शुरू से ये प्रोसेस आइडेंटिफिकेशन का रखें तो वो हमारे अपने केस स्टडीज हो जाएंगे. Everybody is asking how to search case studies. Are you here to search case studies? This is a long, like a year-long process you do for GS. You're reading newspapers, you're building opinions, you're building perspectives and then writing answers, no? So you can do similar thing for anthro. Anyways, आप अखबार पढ़ ही रहे हो. अगर अखबार नहीं भी पढ़ रहे तो एक मैगजीन फॉलो कर रहे होगे मंथ में एक बार. So वो भी न्यूज़ कवर करते ही हैं. Daily news related material. No. But I will discuss, जैसे मैंने आज आपको एग्जाम्पल्स दिए हैं सेम सेक्स मैरिज का, सोलोगैमी का. सो कुछ भी एंथ्रोपोलॉजिकल रिलेवेंट आया है तो मैं वो आपको क्लास में ही पढ़ाऊँगी. हाँ, वो आपके टॉपिक में जाएगा. जैसे हम मैरिज डिस्कस कर रहे हैं तो हमने मैरिज पढ़ा. जैसे मैं आपको बता रही थी वो खांसी वाला केस, मैट्रिलिनियलिटी वाला, हमने क्लास में पूरा एडिटोरियल इंडियन एक्सप्रेस का और पूरा लॉ पढ़ लिया था. But the way they framed the question was a bit different. So there's certain things which you also have to do on your end. We can provide the conceptual clarity. Limited number of classes होती है ना, तो हमारा aim होता है कि आपके concept clear हो जाएं. बाकी जो application based part है वो तो एकदम open ended bracket है ना. जैसे पुरुषार्था का relevance पूछ लिया, ऐसे ही कर्मा का पूछ सकते हैं, ऋण का पूछ सकते हैं, कुछ भी तो पूछ सकते हैं. तो वैसे questions we'll give you in the test series so that you get a hang of writing the answers. But if you really want to do well, you have to do this exercise. Write your own model answers. उसमें आप क्लास के एग्जाम्पल यूज़ कर लो जो आपको यहाँ से मिल रहे हैं, आप टॉपर के एग्जाम्पल सब एक्सट्रैक्ट करके एक प्रोटोटाइप बना के एक जगह पे लिख लो, फिर उसको याद करके जाओ. दैट इज़ द बेस्ट अप्रोच. एंड ऑप्शनल कैन नॉट बी कवर्ड इन 3 months. इट इज़ अ प्रोसेस. एंटायरली न्यू डिसिप्लिन आप पढ़ने जा रहे हो, तो 3 parts तो खुद, 4 सब फील्ड्स तो खुद ही हो गई इसकी, फिजिकल, सोशो कल्चरल, आर्कियोलॉजी, लिंग्विस्टिक्स. So how can we say? And we have to also start writing answers also, right? So you can do it in 5 to 6 months. I would say till December, focus on your optional, get it done. Notes, consolidation, case study, answer writing. क्योंकि वो mental block भी हट जाएगा मन से कि मैंने कभी लिखा नहीं है या मुझे याद नहीं है. लिखोगे तो याद भी करोगे. और आपके कोर्स के एंड में जो टेस्ट सीरीज होती है उसको रिलीजियसली लिखो. फिर जनवरी से प्री मोड में आ जाओ. That is ideal. Till December, do ethics, essay, GS and optionals, and then move to prelims. That way your mains journey will become simplified. तो जो टाइम आपको तब मिलेगा उसमें आप वैल्यू एनरिचमेंट कर सकते हो अपने आंसर्स की. नहीं तो फिर आप बेसिक्स पे जाके फिर लास्ट में ये और टॉपर नोट्स करके जाओगे बस. लास्ट में फिर यही होता है अगर कंसोलिडेटेड मटेरियल एक जगह पे नहीं है तो. बाकी जो भी ऑनलाइन देख रहे हो ये स्टैंडर्ड सोर्सेज हैं, वैसे कोई अंत नहीं है. देर आर अ लॉट ऑफ सोर्सेज, बट आई वुड से वन बेसिक सोर्स लाइक ई ज्ञान कोश, क्योंकि उसका लैंग्वेज सिंपल है तो हम सबको समझ आएगा. एंड सेकेंड, स्टैंडर्ड बुक्स. एनी अदर क्वेश्चन? सबका आप सिलेबस उठा के चैप्टर वाइज करोगे ना. अब जैसे मैरिज का चैप्टर है, उसमें डेफिनेशन, फॉर्म्स, टाइप्स, एक्सेप्शंस, 5 टॉपिक तो यही हो गए. उसके बाद कंटेम्प्रेरी में जैसे सेम सेक्स सोलोगामी ऐड हो गया तो 7 हो गए. So it is contextual. It depends on what topic you're talking about. Like biological and archaeology and anthropological theories is limited. Right? So ऐसे मत सोचो आप. I would suggest आप field wise जाओ. पहले socio cultural, फिर biological, फिर archaeological, field wise. Do not segregate into topics, into subfields or into parts. फिर एक Indian, फिर tribal. तो 6 आप मॉड्यूल्स बना सकते हो, 6 कॉपीज छोटी छोटी बना सकते हो ताकि आपकी वैल्यू एडिशन भी रेलेवेंट होती जाए इंस्टेड ऑफ की 1 मोटी कॉपी. 6 for every section, and you add the related PYQs in that notebook itself. Okay? Anything else? वो आपके ऊपर डिपेंड करता है. हाँ, जब आप लोग रेडी हो, आई विल अपलोड द क्वेश्चन पेपर्स. पोर्टल पे अपलोड हो जाती है, तो जो लोग रेडी हैं वो उस टाइम लिख देते हैं, इवैल्यूएट होके मिल जाता है. जिनको ऐसा है कि मुझे अभी और पढ़ना है, रिवाइज करना है, हम बाद में लिखेंगे, तो क्योंकि वो पोर्टल पे होती है तो आप बाद में भी लिख सकते हो. फिर आपके मॉडल आंसर्स वहाँ पे अपलोड हो जाएंगे. डिस्कशन, मैं मेंटरशिप सेशंस लेती हूँ यहाँ पे एंथ्रो के, तो आप किसी भी टाइम आके डिस्कस भी कर सकते हो. अगर किसी क्वेश्चन में आपको लग रहा है कि मुझे कम ज़्यादा मार्क्स मिले हैं या मुझे इसमें क्या पर्सपेक्टिव डालना चाहिए था, एट्सेट्रा. एंड आई विल ऑल्सो गिव यू उमा हरथी की कॉपीज़, टेस्ट कॉपीज़ फॉर रेफरेंस. बट वो तब जब आप एक फॉर्डर अक्यूमुलेट अपना कर लो जिसमें आप समझ पाओ कि उनका आंसर क्यों इतना अलग है और उन्होंने क्या इतना अलग लिखा है कि उनको the formulation and structuring of answer is very good for her. So I'll try to help with that also with topper answer copies. Anything else? I've give everyday assignment, 1 question. If you want weekly, we'll just club them and give it once a week. मेरा पर्पस ये है कि असाइनमेंट का, एक तो जैसे मैं आज भी आपको कह रही थी ना कि 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐻 क्राइसिस और सेम सेक्स मैरिजेस, कई बार हम ऐसे इश्यूज को प्रिपेयर ही नहीं करते. सो सपोज दिस न्यूज़ इज देयर, आई विल नॉट टीच इट टुडे, आई विल टेल यू टू डू द होमवर्क एंड कम एंड वील डिस्कस इट टुमारो. So that way you will also do certain brainstorming and then I'll add value to it. तो आपका पूरी story बन जाएगी और उसी दिन फिर हम उसका आंसर लिख देंगे क्लास में. जैसे मैं कह रही हूँ ना, towards the end of the class 7 minutes 10 minutes devoted for answer. I will write my answer on the board, you write your answer, and we'll talk about the answer after 10 minutes. So that form of assignment I usually follow. 1 to 2 questions every day. And mostly they would be PYQs or modeled on PYQs. Okay. और उसका मॉडल आंसर आपको मिल जाएगा, डिस्कशन भी मिल जाएगा, हम डिस्कस ही कर लेंगे 10 मिनट्स लेके, और आई विल गिव यू अ प्रोटोटाइप इफ़ यू वांट. नहीं तो बोर्ड पे ही आंसर लिखा जाएगा, सो कोई इशू नहीं है. एनीथिंग एल्स? हाउ डिफिकल्ट द डायग्राम्स आर गोइंग टू बी? ये सब नहीं. क्लास के बाद आपको 1.5 से 2 घंटा, 1.5 घंटा is okay. Why? Because when you're studying in the class a particular topic, you have gotten the outlook overview, सब कुछ आपको मिल गया है. फिर जो आप standard sources से पढ़ोगे, it will make the topic clearer in your mind. You will be like, I am done with this topic and I am consolidating the topic. But if we do not do that exercise every day, फिर वो हम भूल जाएंगे. फिर जब हम नोट्स उठाएंगे तो हमें वो उतना ही न्यू लगेगा जितना शुरू वाले दिन लगा था. So this is very important. If you can even devote 1 hour to go back to the sources to get a perspective. जो मैं कह रही हूँ ना, the organic linkage with the subject will come if we are devoting certain time every day. No, ऐसे suddenly नहीं आएगा क्योंकि नया subject है और शुरू में आपको लगेगा कि बहुत इन्फॉर्मेशन ओवरलोड है, लगेगा. मैं पहले ही इसीलिए बता रही हूँ क्योंकि 8-9 थियोरीज हैं आपके सिलेबस में लिखा है. हम उस वहाँ से शुरू करके पर्सपेक्टिव बिल्ड करेंगे कि एंथ्रोपोलॉजी है क्या. सो उसमें बहुत पर्सपेक्टिव्स, स्कॉलर्स, उनके बुक्स, बहुत चीज़ें आएंगी. तो अगर हम उनको साथ साथ घर पे जाके एक बार रिवाइज कर लें और ज्ञान कोश या रेलेवेंट जगह से पढ़ लें, एम्बर जो भी आपको कंफर्टेबल लगता है, तो उससे आपका थोड़ा you get more polished and you can differentiate कि मुझे ये पार्ट में प्रॉब्लम है, ये पार्ट मेरा ग्रास्प करने में ईजी है. सो दैट बिकम्स ईजी फॉर यू. For structuring, Akshat Jain sirs or Vivek Bhasmi sir, both the books are equally good. You can have a look at them कि इन्होंने आंसर को कैसे अप्रोच किया है, तो मैं सीख सकती हूँ कि मुझे कैसे आंसर लिखने हैं. राइट? बट दैट विल कम एट अ स्टेज जब हमारे पास थोड़ा मटेरियल ऐसा होगी जो हमें याद है लिखने के लिए. अदरवाइज आप शुरू में PYQ जब मॉडल लिखोगे, यू कैन डू रिसर्च एंड राइट कि मेरा आइडियल PYQ आंसर ऐसा दिखना चाहिए. यू कैन टेक योर 20 minutes रिसर्च, read articles and then write your answer. That is good because that will serve as a prototype for your mains. But जो क्लास में हम करेंगे वो prompt होगा. Okay, because suddenly I'm asking you a question and what are your thoughts on that? You will write that. क्लास नोट्स मतलब डिक्टेशन नहीं होता, बट मैं हैंड आउट देती हूँ जो हमने पढ़ा है उसी का. एंड दिस टाइम वी आर प्लानिंग टू गिव अ हैंड रिटन हैंड आउट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ अ काइंड ऑफ अ लूसिड वे, जैसे करंट अफेयर्स के देखे होंगे, है ना. सो जिसमें आप फ्लो चार्ट्स में कंसेप्चुअल एनालिसिस, बेसिकली स्पेक्ट्रम के पीछे जैसे होता है ना, बुलेट्स में आपका पूरा चैप्टर कवर हो जाता है. सो आई एम प्लानिंग टू डू दिस ऑन माई ओन. So I can give that kind of a summary because वो dictation word by word it becomes redundant. It takes a lot of time for. But if there's a tricky topic, I'll do that. 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐻 crisis is a tricky topic. Hardy vein, कुछ biological hardcore topic है. So where I think it is needed, I will do. But imagine definition of marriage लिख रहे हैं. अब 5 definition है, 5 scholar है, वो आप किसी भी book से पढ़ सकते हो, पर फिर मैं लिखवा दूंगी if you want. But then it will only take time. आई बिलीव कि हम वो डेफिनेशन डिस्कस करें कि इन्होंने ऐसा क्यों बोला और इस डेफिनेशन में क्या ड्रॉबैक है, विच कम्युनिटी इज नॉट कवर्ड इन दिस डेफिनेशन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, नो डेफिनेशन ऑफ मैरिज कवर्स गे लेस्बियन रिलेशनशिप्स. नो डेफिनेशन ऑफ मैरिज covers children who do not have a biological father. So I would like to study the analytical part of it, but there are certain topics which need proper dictation, so you will be given proper relevant material for it. Right? A handout is like a printed material from all these sources, predominantly IGNOU sources, ताकि आपको एक line of thought मिल जाए उसको पढ़ के. उसी में diagrams और सब added होता है, right? अगर हम कोई टॉपिक पढ़ रहे हैं और उस टॉपिक से रिलेटेड कोई न्यूज़ रही है तो वो मैं आपसे डिस्कस करूँगी और वो आप अपनी केस स्टडी बना के लिखोगे क्लास में, और उससे रिलेटेड एडिटोरियल जो आया होगा वो मैं हैंड आउट में अटैच कर दूँगी. तो उससे क्या होगा कि आपका मटेरियल एक जगह हो जाएगा. एथनिक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एक चैप्टर है तो उसमें कुकी मेइती का इंडियन एक्सप्रेस या हिंदू का आर्टिकल हम स्टैपल करके दे देंगे, तो केस स्टडी ऐड हो जाएगी. ठीक है. उसके अलावा जो भी आप कर सकते हो, वॉट एवर टाइम यू हैव. सी, अगर मैं क्लास में भी दे रही हूँ तो आप सबको सेम मटेरियल जा रहा है, आप आर्ग्यूमेंट नहीं समझ रहे, सब लोग सेम चीज़ लिखोगे तो वो डिफरेंस कुछ किसी डिग्री पे आप भी क्रिएट करना चाहोगे ना. जैसे सपोज मैं इंडियन एक्सप्रेस हिंदू कवर कर रही हूँ तो आप कभी डाउन टू अर्थ जाके आपने देख लिया, कोई नया इन्फॉर्मेशन मिल गया, आपने योजना कुरुक्षेत्र में कुछ अगर इशू आया तो वो तो डिस्कस होगा ही क्लास में, बट यू कैन डू समथिंग मोर, देयर इज ऑलवेज रूम. जैसे मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ ट्राइबल अफेयर्स की रिपोर्ट है, एट द आउटसेट मैं डिस्कस करूँगी, पर अगर उसमें किसी डब्बे में कोई केस स्टडी है जो आपने ले ली वो आप ऐड कर सकते हो, क्योंकि फिर आप सब लोग सेम चीज़ें लिख रहे होगे ना. बट वैल्यू एडिशन विल बी देयर, इट्स नॉट दैट इट विल नॉट बी देयर, बट द स्ट्रैटेजी इज कि आप खुद से इतना अच्छा आंसर लिखो कि वो मैकेनिस्टिक ना लगे, कि वो मैकेनिकल याद किया हुआ लिखा हुआ है. हाँ जी, ज़्यादा रिटेन रहेगा. हाँ, द आइडिया इज़ दैट, क्योंकि मॉडल आंसर भी मिलेंगे ऐसे तो आप अगर आपकी कैपेसिटी है वर्ड बाय वर्ड याद करके लिख दोगे तो डिफरेंट चीज़ है, बट दैट यील्ड्स मोर मार्क इफ़ यू हैव योर पर्सपेक्टिव्स. एक क्वेश्चन पूछती हूँ मैं आपसे, डू यू थिंक ग्लोबलाइजेशन विल रिजल्ट इन द क्रिएशन ऑफ अ homogenized वर्ल्ड? हाउ? ओके, एग्जाम्पल. आपसे अलग पूछूंगी. आई एम ट्राइंग टू गेट पर्सपेक्टिव्स हियर. वेट, एक्स एक सेकेंड. Okay, tell me your points. I'll write on the left hand side. नहीं, क्रिटिकली एनालाइज. सो आपको डिफरेंस समझ में आएगा ना डिस्कस और क्रिटिकली एनालाइज में. क्रिटिकली एनालिसिस में आपको प्रोज और कॉन्स दोनों बताने हैं, उनको वे करना है, फिर आपको कंक्लूजन देना है. 5 minutes, कैन यू प्लीज गिव मी अ स्टीरियोटाइप, प्रोटोटाइप ऑफ योर आंसर. प्रोटोटाइप मतलब जैसे आप पॉइंट बता रहे हो ना, वेस्टर्न वाला पॉइंट है, वैसे पॉइंटर्स बता दो, स्ट्रक्चरिंग बता दो बस. Yes, done. बताओ बताओ होमोजेनाइजेशन के आर्ग्यूमेंट्स फर्स्ट. Will it create homogeneity? अगर कोई इंडियन उठ के यूएस में गए और वो वहाँ पे जाके छोले भटूरे पॉपुलराइज कर रहे हैं तो वो होमोजेनिटी है या हेट्रोजेनिटी है? So reservation is a cone. Demand for reservation is a cone of globalization. Son of the soil concept. ये ग्लोबलाइजेशन से कैसे रिलेट किया आपने? ब्रेन ड्रेन. इन सर्च ऑफ जॉब, रूरल टू अर्बन माइग्रेशन. ठीक. ओके. ठीक है. कौन्स प्रोज कितने थे? You tell your points. इसी में ही आ जाएगा. यस. हाँ वो सब उसी में ही आ गया. So that is because of globalization. Okay. Okay. Legalized. Okay. What else? Yes, that is a good example. Yes. Yes. As a platform to keep the needs of the developing countries also. Yes. 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 कौन्स में? Okay. Your points for homogenization? Hmm. Hmm. Yes. Cons? See, let's discuss the pros first. First is yes, the westernized model which we are all applying in our daily lives at a very increasing pace. For example, McDonaldization, Starbucks is available everywhere. These are MNCs. And you'll study later on this form of increasing setting up of MNCs in different parts of the world is also called as neo-colonialism or neo-imperialism. First thing, because there's a lot of investment which goes into these organizations, and Indian investors are also investing here. The second point here is that what is the role of social media here? Instagram, Facebook, everything has given you a certain kind of a goalpost to chase in every sector. For example, if you want to travel to a certain place, you will find a lot of videos, the spots which you don't have to miss. So that means what? Ubiquitously, internet is universalizing certain things which everybody has to do. There is a case study here of Para Road, Goa mein. So Para Road was popularized because of Dear Zindagi. Before that, nobody used to go to that particular road. Okay. So now after that movie, it has become a point. It has become a spot. So now people are going there, parking their bikes in the middle of the road, making reels, making videos. Local peoples are having trouble in traveling because that's a narrow stretch of road which is connecting a village to the main city. So this is one example that how, because of certain norms which have been set by the internet globally, we are wanting to showcase certain ideas. Apart from that, fast fashion. So earlier we used to have 3 season in terms of wear. For specifically, if I talk about India, summer, winter, spring. Now you have a season, a sale or a collection every 2 months. So that is fast fashion. If now everybody is wearing those wide leg pants and every influencer is promoting them, so that, okay, you have to do this, you have to do this. People in India are eating chia seeds and oats, overnight soaked oats. Okay, whereas we already had concepts like 𝐂𝐻𝐿 chila and all. If I talk about protein, India is promoting the idea of millets already. So why are we not focusing on locally grown millets, which are a part of the coarse grains and also curing the protein deficiencies? So these are certain things which are happening because of mindless copying which we are doing because of globalization, because we are thinking that we need to be a part of that particular bracket, that particular people who lose weight on a oats and chia seed breakfast every day. These are certain examples which are around you, right? Now, because of which the culture of consumerism has increased. So if you look at the Purushartha philosophy in Indian context, we were only told to have that much which is necessary for your subsistence and then give a dan. Now, if somebody has a Swift, they would want to have a Thar, they want to have Audi, Mercedes. So the list is very long. So there's an increase in the trend and erosion of the traditional philosophies. For example, you can see how nowadays the Japanese concept of Ikigai is making a comeback. Whereas most of the Indians, you will see they are trending more towards consumerist cultures. And after COVID, how increase in mutual fund investment has grown multifold. So there are financial influencers who are targetedly selling a particular idea. So your points are fine, but I would say that when you approach these answers, write examples which are happening around us, which make the answer more relevant. On the other hand, I would argue for that opinion that globalization is leading to preservation of cultural diversity and heterogenization. How? Recently, there has been a lot of news where people are saying Europe has a very kind of a very elongated visa process where you have to apply for a 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐿 visa, 200 pages of documents we need to submit. Whereas for Africa, it's a 5-minute e-visa which is available. So people are promoting tourism in Africa now. Otherwise, Africa was wantedly projected as a non-existing continent on the sphere of the world. People are putting Africa on the map. Masai Mara, you must have heard of this tribe. This tribe is very popular. वैसे भी YouTube पे लिखोगे ना, you will see Masai Mara cultural experience is a tour package. So they have brought Africa to the map, first thing. Secondly, you must have seen videos where African people are dancing to Bollywood songs, very popular. Bhangra introduced in UK. So these are things where indigenous cultures are reaching everywhere. Here you can write the Japanese model of Ikigai is gaining an importance. So this is where in the garb of globalization also certain indigenous cultures are able to highlight them. One more example of Cone, Mrs. Chatterjee versus State of Norway, where there are certain child rearing practices which are against the English notion, which were challenged there despite her being an Indian. So these are case studies. यही case study होती है, examples जो हमारे आसपास हो रहा है. Now Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway is a 2011 judgment, but it is in news right now, no? Yes? So there is a reassertion that how do you define child rearing? Is it not the prerogative of the parents? Should state interfere there? So a lot of questions are opened up on that front. Food and culture is getting spreaded. So if I want to try a Middle East cuisine, I can go to a YouTube channel and I can get the recipe for an authentic cuisine, even if I'm not able to go to that place. So different food preferences from all over the world are also coming. Have you seen on YouTube recently, you will see a lot of regional ethnic food channels are also coming up. सिर्फ फास्ट फूड का नहीं है, रीजनल चैनल्स आर ऑल्सो गेटिंग अ पुश. सो दैट इज अ गुड वे. अदरवाइज हु विल गो टू दोज रीजनल चैनल्स? देयर इज वन चैनल ऑफ I don't know, granny, Indian granny something. She makes food for like 350 people and they donate in an NGO. That is what they claim. And they have a lot of million of following. So वैसे recipes को वैसे भी push नहीं मिलता. Although now they are making noodles and all these things. But yes, they also give a push to indigenous ways. Preservation of traditional knowledge. Indigenous knowledge or herbal medicine knowledge which is at the disposal of the tribal people, which is now being recognized by the governments also. And it happened more so after America tried to patent haldi, saying that medicinal use of haldi is our invention, and India was looking at them. बचपन से हल्दी का दूध हम पी रहे हैं, पेटेंट आप कराओगे, right? So from there it stemmed that indigenous knowledge also needs to be prevented. So that task is there. So which will lead to prevention of tribal cultures. And now you have online platforms. हाट, दिल्ली हाट तो है ही. ऑनलाइन आपने प्लेटफॉर्म्स देखे हो, अगर एड्स भी आती हैं उनकी, जिस पे ट्राइबल साड़ीज, ट्राइबल हैंडीक्राफ्ट्स बेचे जाते हैं. So there are a lot of women collectives and NGOs who are trying to give a push to the tribal handicrafts in the mainstream idea, right? So these are examples. So this question was to be written in a GS type format. इसमें कोई anthropological relevance वैसा नहीं था. So that is why I asked this question. This is a general question. So now since the answer was critically analyzed, so you have to analyze both the pointers and then give a conclusion which you support on the basis of the arguments which you have presented over here. Is it clear? These are the kind of this is what you should look in newspapers. अगर अभी समझ आया तो, जैसे पारा रोड लास्ट वीक न्यूज़पेपर में था, they imposed a tax called स्वच्छता टैक्स. वो बाद में हटा भी दिया था. एंड सिंस इट इज अ नैरो रोड, वहाँ पे कोई भी आके रील बना रहा है, सो पीपल आर डेंजरसली रिपोर्टिंग दिस दैट वी आर इन ट्रबल बिकॉज ऑफ दैट टूरिज्म, राइट? सो दीज आर एग्जाम्पल्स विच वी. Achha, one of the biggest example as we speak right now, today Modi ji is addressing UN headquarters. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is the theme. So big thing, International Yoga Day पे योगा कैसे पॉपुलराइज हो गया, तो वो भी एक प्रो है ग्लोबलाइजेशन का, द ग्रेट पुश विच योगा हैज गॉट. सो वो आप इसमें एग्जाम्पल लिख सकते हो कि थीम भी वासुदेव कुटुम्बकम है, विच इज ब्रिंगिंग संस्कृत देयर. The push to list Hindi as an official language for the UN. There have been multiple initiatives. You just sit and think about this and you can jot down different examples. Now see, this is the advantage of discussing a question after writing it. कि हमें एक दूसरे के perspectives मिलते हैं, हमें अच्छे points मिलते हैं. Like you told G20, I realized I missed it. And then I remembered what Modi ji is doing today. So ऐसे click होते हैं points. So as a result of the discussion, you will also get good fodder points and we'll be able to make good model answers for you. So this is the exercise which I was telling you, which we'll do after every class. Once we complete 7-8 classes where you have conceptual clarity, and otherwise we can write these type of simple questions also. Simple matlab GS type, where anthropological expertise is not needed. और ये होते हैं केस स्टडीज, फास्ट फैशन, पारा रोड, मोदी जी का एड्रेस, मसाई मारा टूरिज्म में अभी बहुत न्यूज़ है, गर्मी की छुट्टियां चल रही हैं, सो पीपल आर ट्वीटिंग अबाउट देयर वेकेशंस, सो एवरीबडी इज राइटिंग यूरोप इज़ वेरी डिफिकल्ट, यूरोप इज़ वेरी डिफिकल्ट, गो टू अफ्रीका, सो अफ्रीका को पुश मिल रहा है, राइट. सिमिलरली वियतनाम इज गेटिंग अ पुश. Yesterday, Vietnamese defense minister was here in India, and tourism to Vietnam is getting a push. E-visa है, 5 minute का process है. So things which you can also learn from social media basically. So ज़रूरी नहीं है कि हम केस स्टडी सिर्फ न्यूज़पेपर में ढूंढें. अगर आपके घर में कोई पेरेंट्स आपस में कोई चीज़ बात कर रहे हैं, वो भी केस स्टडी हो सकता है. It depends on the perspective you have. Okay, clear? Any more questions? So all the very best. I hope you will follow the traditional strategy to ace the mains, because there is no shortcut and it cannot be done in 3 months. We can start the good work now, carry it on till December, and then be in a good position to revise the entire syllabus, write the tests, get feedback, and then you're satisfied that your material is in one place. Then you go full-fledged on prelims. Right? Otherwise, prelims and mains is an integrated preparation. It is not different anyhow. And anthropology in a certain way might help you in prelims as well, where you get to know about the PVTGs, tribes, their issues. You'll get to know tribal schemes, tribal safeguards, 75 years of independence, and still we are talking about health and education issues for tribal India. What has the government done? What policies have been in place? What was their performance? All these things you'll study here, right? So thank you for your patience. All the best. एक सेकेंड, 23 का वैल्यू एडिशन क्लास नहीं ऑब्वियसली, क्योंकि एक ही दिन छोड़ के तो सेम नहीं होगा. वहाँ पे हम डिस्कस करेंगे कोई भी कॉन्सेप्ट, एक कॉन्सेप्ट, ताकि आपको टीचिंग मेथडोलॉजी समझ आए, और ट्राइबल और इंडियन सोसाइटी का थोड़े से टॉपिक्स लेंगे, क्योंकि आज हमारे टॉपिक्स प्रीडोमिनेंटली सोशियो कल्चरल और फिजिकल एंथ्रोपोलॉजी के थे. So we would discuss paper 2 predominantly, and I'll teach 2 concepts so that you can get an understanding of the discipline. So that is what we are scheduled for day after tomorrow. Hanji, no other teacher knows. Demo classes are free for another teacher. So last year I was on leave for 6 months. Yes, I had a child, so that's why. Now I'm back. Okay, right. And for the next week also, when foundation begins, we have first 3 classes which are open to everyone. So even if you want to know in detail what type of handout is given, how do we teach, do you want to know about the methodology, etc., so you can attend those 3 classes as well, right? Any more doubts? Syllabus approximately 4.5 months, 4 to 4.5. We'll try to wrap it up in 4. हाँ, November to July, August, September, October I am targeting. November is the upper limit, because I would want you to write tests in October और November में, ताकि आप सारे टेस्ट लिख के अपने फीडबैक्स ले लो, और December में आप टेस्ट से भी वैल्यू एडिशन करके एक गुड पोजीशन में हो to shift your gears to pre. So October mid is the deadline which I am chasing. बाकी we'll discuss, right? Thank you.